What's up, guys? Coach Jonathan here. We're going to talk about making a change permanent. So if you're watching this, you're probably thinking, hey, I wish I could train on a regular basis, but I never can seem to make that permanent, or I want to eat better on a regular basis, or I want to show up better for my family, better in my relationships, whatever it is, but actually do it on a regular basis. See, most people, I believe, want to change, and especially as men, we have a culture that wants us to progress and improve. However, I think the way that most people push men towards change is actually counterproductive, because you hear all the influencers and people say, well, I wake up at 2:30 in the morning to do X, Y, and Z so that I can have this done before my kids wake up. That's great, but biologically, your body can only live on 4 hours of sleep for so long. So like whenever I hear someone say they do all this vitamin regimen, nutrition stuff, exercise and all that, but then I hear they only sleep 5 hours, I'm like, that doesn't really make sense, because your sleep is where you recover from the stress of the day. So if you don't prioritize sleep, you can't show up anyways, right? And it's a mentality. It's a mentality to change. And the mentality is just put more effort, right? Just do more, do more, do more. And it can be counterproductive when you're trying to actually make something long-term, and then you're trying to get some sort of long-term result that requires consistency over time. Most people, when they do the normal route of change of just doing more, sleeping less, figuring out how to just make it work, they tend to burn out, or they sacrifice other areas of their life, right? And to me, that doesn't make sense. I think it's an oversimplification to just say, do more, do more, do more. Because as men, hey, we've got career goals. We got things that we want to pursue. We've got personal health or fitness things that kind of make us want to engage physically into something. We've got relationships like our family. There's things that we want to have inputs on. And the reality is there's only so many hours in a day. And biologically, your body can only last so long if you start sacrificing sleep. So the question is, how do you make a change permanent when all that stuff is the case? So let's draw a picture. We got a graph here, okay? Over here we've got change, and then over here we've got time, all right? Now, this is from the exercise science world, all right? We've got two basic approaches here. We've got maximum recoverable volume and then minimum effective dose. Maximum recoverable volume means I'm going to do as much as I can while still being able to recover. That's what this is, okay? So the idea is that I want to try to do as much as I can, get as much change as I want, and eventually it kind of tails off and then goes down, okay? And then time is your life, all right? So that's long-term over your life. So the idea is I'm going to put as much work in so I can have as much recovery and adaptation of growth or change so that I can get to the peak, the highest, the fastest, all right? Whenever you do a training program that takes an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, it's 6 days a week, all that type, that's what this is. It's hey, how can I do as much as possible so that I can get the change as fast as possible, right? It's trying to spike this up. That's the typical approach of wake up at 3 in the morning and do more stuff, all that. That's what that is, okay? So you're just adding more, doing more, and then you're riding a line of recoverability. So the problem that I see with this approach most often is you're riding the line of injury. You're dancing with the line of well, what happens if, I do a little too much? Well, then you have to stop, right? And then you start over again, basically. And so what this normally actually looks like, let me do it in another color. Let me do this in blue. So normally, actually, what happens is you go and you go up some, but then it comes down because you get injured or something. Then you start here, then you go down again, then down again. So that's normally what happens, and that's when you can't make a change permanent. And this doesn't have to be for exercise. This can literally be for anything, down, down, down. You try again, and then you stop, and try again, then you stop. Now, you may not actually be worse off, but it sure does feel like it, right? It feels man, another time I failed, another time I failed, another time I failed. I don't like that psychology. I've been coaching in the gym for 11 years. I owned a gym for 8. I'm in the process of selling it. I've been coaching for a long time, and generally speaking, I don't like this psychology of change. I don't like setting yourself up to always go backwards, okay? I like going a little deeper, and then I like making it more simple, all right? So this is what I prefer. Okay, I prefer put that there, minimum effective dose. Okay, so minimum effective dose is what's like the smaller amount I can do, but I can ensure that I do it over a longer duration of time. It looks more like this. Okay, and this is the funny part about minimum effective dose. It does tail off at some point, but the reality is you can sustain it longer. And whenever you get older, like this is with physical fitness, whenever you get older, you have to stop doing MRV because you physically can't recover. Like us as males, we go through what's called anabolic resistance. We start producing less growth hormone and testosterone naturally. And so unless you get like artificial supplementation of that, you have to do less volume. Like you have to do that because you can't recover from it, right? So you're going to end up switching here, but the minimum effective dose, it doesn't seem as big of a deal here, but it carries you through long term. And here's the other part. People underestimate the power of the psychology of minimum effective dose because I can mentally stack wins longer. And so I can create something that's more enduring because I'm less, prone to injury or going backwards, and I build the confidence of how I show up. This, I think, is a better way to approach changes, whether that's fitness, whether that's relationships, sobriety, whatever, is like, hey, just what's the thing? When I went to rehab the second time, when I finally got clean for real, like the biggest thing I was like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna try to follow the schedule. Like that was as simple as it was when I got there. I was like, you know what? The schedule says wake up at 6:15, be downstairs by 6:45. I'm just going to do that, okay? Didn't matter like my participation in the thing I was going to. It was like, I'm just going to comply with the schedule. That's minimum effective dose. I wasn't going to try to like comply with the schedule and participate 100% and go fix all my relationships and fix everything. And like, I wasn't trying to do that. I was like, you know what, man? Just simply put, what's the base level of compliance? Let me just show up, okay? When it comes to fitness, when I used to do consults at my gym, or even now, like if I talk to people about fitness, I'm like, hey, dude, like what can you do, right? What can you do for the next 12 weeks that you can guarantee me? Most people, it'd be 3 days a week. Funny thing is, they start doing it, and after about 4 or 5 weeks, they're like, oh, I can add a fourth day. And that's because they finally started winning. They didn't start with this, well, I got to work out 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, do X, Y, and Z. And then they got to week 3 and they only came 3 days because life happened. They felt like a failure. Then the next week they struggled to get started because they're like, well, I'm already behind. That's maximum recoverable volume. That psychology ends up creating more opportunities to fail in a losing fashion. I don't mind failing. I don't mind trying something and not winning. But if I'm looking at someone who's had a pattern of struggling to make a change permanent, I say, how can we flip this or make this more conducive to long-term success? That's normally this route. That's saying, hey, what's like the minimum I can do right here, okay? So like, for example, I like to just simply say, hey, like workout, can you work out 3 days a week? All right, great. Could you work out today? Okay, yeah, I can work out today. Just do 5 minutes, man. Literally just do squats and burpees for like 5 minutes, slow as you possibly can. And then you did more today than you did yesterday, and then you don't have to go work out 2 hours a day. It's literally a single win that puts you, like it can be that simple of, let me just get on the path, right? Whereas all the influencers will say, well, you gotta wake up at 2 in the morning and you gotta, do this and cold plunge and journal and all, and nothing's wrong with those things. It's just simply saying like, if you're starting to sacrifice other areas of health because you think you're moving forward, you're gonna have a long-term problem. You're suscepting yourself to way more chance of injury. You're better off going on this route. Also, these people, they tend to sleep better at night. They have less stress about what progress they're not making because they know that they're doing the long-term approach. And I've done too much of my life like this. I mean, when I first started my gym, it was like rise and grind, like do all that stuff. And I'm not against hard work. I'm all about hard work. But what I've learned over the years is like the actual hard work is the focus of what matters. Like the hard work isn't doing stuff. I used to clean the gym and feel like I was working hard, but I could have just paid someone like $15 an hour and saved 3 hours of my weekend with $50. Like, would I make that trade? Absolutely. I don't cut my grass anymore. I am willing to make that trade, dude. I want that extra 3 hours on my weekend with my family, man. So it's like, you don't have to just do more and grind and do all that to get a result. That's a bad psychology. And I think with men, what it ends up doing is the longer you go with feeling like you fail, the less you want to try. But if we can come down here and just get started slowly and we can like reframe what we're doing, all of a sudden we start to feel a little bit better. We're like, okay, I can work out 3 days a week. That sounds doable. And then you start doing it, and then 6 months later, you're a totally different person, and you realize like, oh, this is a part of who I am. It starts to change your belief about yourself and identity. And again, it's not woo-woo personal development. It's simply being realistic about where am I today and what's going to get me on the path. But here's the cool part. If you work out 3 days a week for the next 10 years, you are a totally different human being. And I'll bet you're going to outperform a lot of people on this MRV thing, because again, what happens is when you do MRV, maximum recoverable volume, you start going up and then you get injured, and then you start going up and then you get injured, and then you start going, and look where you end up. I see so many people who just burn themselves out, and they just kind of hum just above level. But these people, man, those are the ones that do it for a long period of time. So if you want to make a change permanent, start thinking minimum effective dose. Start thinking like, what's the minimum way I can do this to ensure my consistency? Because I'm pretty sure every single thing in life has to do with consistent input and staying focused. Like relationships, finance, whatever it is, staying focused for a long period of time, that's what's going to lead you to long-term success in however you define success. It's like level of health, financial success, all that, dude. Like this. And again, I'm 10 years into coaching, 11 years, 8 years of owning a business. I've spent too much time here. I thought that this was the best way. And one of the reasons I am selling my gym, one of the reasons I'm getting into this coaching is because like currently I work full time. I do sales for a company now. So it's like I still work and do this, but I'm not doing this like 6 hours a day plus working 7 hours a day. Like I'm fitting this in, but I know that the long-term consistent input of like this content and coaching you guys and building the program that I'm building, like the long-term thing is taking me to where I want to be, right? I'm even using that same psychology for this stuff, right? So think about this, guys. Like, what is it that you can do consistently, small, minimum effective dose, and carry it through a long duration, all right, guys? I'll end with one quick story. I've tweaked my neck 2 times in the past 2 months, and it's made me reevaluate why I train the way I do. And I like CrossFit. I've enjoyed it. You know, it's the gym I own. Like, I've done CrossFit. But what I realized was like, you know what? I think I want minimum effective dose in my CrossFit training. Like, I want to feel extremely doable every time. I don't want to just every day feel like a crazy challenge. I'm cool with challenges. I'm all about it. I like doing physical stuff. I'm sure you'll see that stuff over time. But I realized like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was like, no, I don't want the limitation of my neck, right? So what am I going to do to modify my training? And so I've been scaling workouts, but I feel better. Like I feel better after I work out. I'm recovering better. I feel more fit. And it's funny, like I'm doing this when I used to think this, like it always had to be heavier, harder. But now I'm more like, no, I just want to train so I can show up tomorrow. Train. And it's funny, I owned a gym for 8 years and I was thinking the other way, but now it's like I'm slowly shifting like, no, like I want to do this on a long ride, right? So even I'm still learning this, but I've seen this, man. I've signed up a bunch of people. I've probably done over 1,000, you know, maybe close to 2,000 or so individual consults at my gym. And this is what people need. They come in thinking this, I got to do too much. This is what they need. So hope you guys find that valuable. As always, like, share, subscribe, whatever, but appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys later.